out.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Because we're now live, which means if you are subscribed on YouTube, you'll have had a notification. I know we're running a little bit late on today's show. First one back, but as soon as we've gotten everyone settled and sorted, I know that we're also going to be getting one or two people that are going to be joining us for a certain Hollywood superstar. But unfortunately, he seems to have vanished off the face of the earth. So no idea where Kaz and Anwar is today. But as soon as we get ourselves all settled, the other thing that I'm going to open up is the chat room as well. So if you are watching this on YouTube, we've got 9 viewers already. Hello there, everyone. Welcome along. Yeah, if you are watching on YouTube, do head to our the chat room at the side. I'll do a full intro in a second as soon as we get ourselves all settled. But it looks like Ted and Ro are all in a good place, which is good.
Can you hear us all right?
We can indeed.
Oh, good, because Ted's just worried that we're too far away from the screen.
No, we're fine. I'm kind of getting it so sorted. There we go. There's a pop-out chat that I'm looking for. Yeah, as soon as that is open, I can close that down. And we have the chat room up and running, which means if you are wanting to get questions in to our special guests, and indeed, if you want to talk about anything in general, do let us know. Right. And the other thing I'm going to do is start on that. Hello there, and welcome to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana, and each and every Sunday we talk Comic-Cons, we talk con culture, the wonderful community of people that go to such great events, and also the latest news when it comes to the world of cons around the world. So we're going to be talking North America, UK cons. We're going to be talking about Thought Bubble. We're going to be talking about Lakes. We're going to be talking about MCM. We're going to be talking about a bunch of events that are taking place in the US. We've got ourselves some great guests, which I'm going to introduce. We do have a missing guest, someone who was going to be joining us. We have invited him. We've been contacting the press agency that has been talking to Kaz Anwar from The Expanse, who was going to be joining us because they are going to be showing up at Dragon Con at the end of the month. They're up for a Dragon Award. It was going to be a nice little chat with him about the rise and fall and rise again of The Expanse on Amazon Video. But it looks like Kaz isn't able to join us today, but it doesn't matter because we've got some great guests who are with us anyway. We have my regular partner in crime. We have Alyssa Franks from the Friends of Comic Con Forum. Hello, Alyssa. How are you?
I am well. I am well. It's been a bit of time, and I'm glad to see that we're back and in form.
I know. Tell me about it. I'm in a slightly different place where I would film these usually. Thankfully, I'm now in a slightly better internet position, so hopefully it's going to be a slightly cleaner signal for you guys watching. Do let us know how we're looking on the show.
You do look very crisp and together today.
That's rather scary, isn't it? I mean, when I think that's the old Simpsons or Family Guy gag, when suddenly they get high definition television and all of a sudden that pretty news reporter looks very, very haggard and standard def. So yeah, I can appreciate that's where I am at the moment. But no, it's great to see you back. Yes, I know we've taken an extended break, so it's great to have you here. But we're also joined by Ted Brandt and Ro Stein. Hello there, Ted and Ro. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. This is going to be an interesting one because Ted and Ro. By the way, I didn't really clarify at the beginning. Is it Ro or Rosie? How do I say your name?
Just Ro.
Just Ro. Fair enough. Okay, excellent stuff. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation with you two because you've got an interesting perspective on both the UK and the American comic scenes and also convention scenes because you do a lot of work on both. So it's great to have you here. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We are broadcasting on YouTube, as you know. We're also going to be posting this on Instagram TV. That's going to be going up on Wednesday. It's also going to be going up on SoundCloud and also on iTunes. If you don't fancy looking at my ugly mug for 45 minutes to an hour, Don't forget you can listen to us on Mixlr. If you go to mixlr.com, that's mixlr.com/Englishman SDCC. It's kind of like a live radio show, so you can listen to us live on a Sunday as well. So that's how you can get in contact with us. If you have any questions for anybody, do jump in with a Q&A, and of course we'll jump in with any questions that you have. So I suppose the first thing I want to say is, Ted, Ro, congratulations on Crowded.
Thank you.
Because that came out this week, and it's published by Image. First issue out this week. It's gone down rather well.
I think so. I mean, it's very difficult to tell from our end for a while.
Okay. How long's it been since you've been working on the book? I mean, how long's the Crowded been kind of like in gestation?
It's been a year since the pitch was picked up, I think.
Something like that.
And yeah, it's been a long year of getting to grips with the book. We're only just starting to really feel comfortable on it, honestly. But it's a
learning curve.
Steep learning curve, but it's a relief for it to finally be out in the world.
Yes.
So, I mean, what was it? Who put you together with Christopher Sabella, who's the writer on the book? Who kind of joined you together?
It was a mutual friend who's now the editor on the book, Juliet Capra, because we knew her and Chris knew her before we knew Chris, and it was one of those serendipitous things of we were
looking for work,
yeah,
and he was looking for artists, so.
And Juliet happened to be listening to both of us complain that we needed someone right at the same time, and put us in touch.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I think just in case anyone isn't aware of who you are, because I've been a fan of yours for a while, because I'm a Princeless fan, a big Princeless fan. So that's where I came in to your work. But if you want to introduce yourself to our wider audience, give us a little bit of a bio of the pair of you, please.
Well, we met in university where we were both on a course for making comic books.
And not long after we finished there, then we started working together. So wrote pencils and.
Sorry, there was a bit of noise from Melissa there. Sorry, I didn't quite catch the last bit.
So just saying,
that I pencil and Ted inks.
Yeah, and that's the way we've been working together for quite some years now.
Yeah, our first work was Princeless. That was the first time we'd worked together.
Wow, that was the first thing you jumped in on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How did you connect with that? Was it something that you connected at an event? How did you kind of get in touch with Jeremy on that one?
Tumblr post.
Because Jeremy was in need of a replacement artist for the third arc of Princeless, because the artist they had lined up had some personal troubles that forced them to drop out. So he was just putting out a post on Tumblr saying, you know, we need this. Get in touch if it's you. And well, we gave it a try.
Excellent stuff. When it came to sort of like the evolution of your work, I mean, I'm surprised that that was the first thing that you kind of jumped in on. I mean, were you doing anything prior to Princeless that kind of?
No.
No, it was literally just Tumblr posts and just.
Yeah,
we'd been doing some individual illustrations and stuff, and trying to work up a portfolio, but. We just didn't really have much of an opportunity to do that much, cause looking for other work, because we were just out of university and having trouble finding jobs.
We were just out of university.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we'd never worked together before, and it was just the thing of the Princeless job came up, and we were both interested in it, but both knew that neither of us could do it on our own. So that was it.
So they pretty much really just liked your style of art, and that's probably what it really meshed with the writing.
I think so. I mean, I suspect some of it was also down to work ethic, because we were the only one, because we were the only ones out of the people who applied who asked for a copy of the script we were working on to do some sample pages as part of the tryout. No one else thought to do that. So things like that, and actually making some character sheets for how we do the job also was something that I think nobody else did out of the applicants. So that definitely gave it a leg up.
That's a great advice.
It sounds like the shortest origin story ever. Just launching straight into it. I think that's fantastic. So, I mean, I think the really cool thing is that off the back of that work, you've moved on to work for a lot of American bits and pieces as well, including the Captain America book, which I read. You talk about the books that you've done beyond Princeless.
We've done a couple of fill-in stuff for Marvel. So we did a couple of issues of Captain America.
Yeah, some Captain Marvel.
We did the last issue of the
Volume 1 of the Unstoppable Wasp.
No, it's not Volume 1. It's like the first story. Also, it's the second volume.
You're confusing trades and volume as in the run. It was the end of Volume 1.
I don't have the lingo.
And I mean, we launched at Marvel with the Champions Monsters Unleashed tie-in,
also written by Jeremy. So
yeah. So
has Jeremy been your calling card into?
He helped us get a leg up into the industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, what I was going to use the conversation as is kind of the way that certainly in the UK, the way that the network is made up of artists, writers, collaborations, team-ups, is through comic conventions. But it seems like you kind of circumvented that completely.
Everything we've gotten has been through social media, honestly. I mean,
we got that 3-page thing in Phonogram because of you trading puns with Kieran on Twitter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then, it was just that thing of we'd interacted via bad puns for a while, and then when he was asking for the final round of Phonogram B-side artists, I just kind of decided to, risk it and just send him a message saying,
"We're free."
Yeah, if you can't come up with anyone better, hello. And so we got that as well. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Most people I know have gotten at least some of their stuff from conventions, but
we've not been to enough conventions to do that.
No, because it's because we've been either working or just a bit broken. We haven't gone to conventions frequently enough to really network there. So
which ones have you gone to?
We haven't really tabled at them for ages now.
But
we always go to Thought Bubble, even if it's not tabling. But
London Super Comic Con when we can make it down there, because I think that's my favourite of the London-based conventions.
I think that's the only one I've been to.
Yeah, I'm not MCM's great, but a bit busy for me generally, and so. American ones, the only one we've actually tabled at was NYCC 2 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Time has gone weird. I've no idea.
2 years ago.
As somebody who hasn't kind of evolved into the convention scene, you've kind of gone into comics through your social media contacts. I mean, what was that experience like tabling at something like Thought Bubble or New York Comic Con?
Oh, we always love tabling at Thought Bubble because the atmosphere is really great. When we first did, when we did the New York Comic Con one, no one really knew who we were, and we were in the
we're in the Action Lab booth rather than Artist Alley, which was it.
So we were kind of in a place where people weren't really looking for artists, so it was a little disheartening because it was like no one's actually interested.
Yeah, everyone, because of course Artist Alley in NYCC is such an institution that everybody who's looking for creators looks there.
Yeah.
But so it was an interesting experience. It
was a really weird week.
I think that when I speak to creatives, especially those that go to conventions for table, they often find themselves kind of stuck behind there. They don't get the chance to actually get out and meet other people. Did that situation kind of give you the chance to go out and then explore and meet other creatives?
Yeah, we did.
We did a little bit of going around.
Yeah, well, we spent a couple of mornings wandering and all that, but yeah, certainly it was definitely more flexible than something like Thought Bubble. The last time we tabled, I think we didn't even get a full lunch break. One of us had to run out to
Get some donuts
to forage for food while the other one was finishing up a sketch commission. So yeah, I mean, as much as I love Thought Bubble, then socializing is strictly for the evenings rather than during the day.
And obviously with conventions and like you say, people didn't really know who you were in terms of coming up to the booth or the table. Have you started developing any kind of fan base on a one-to-one basis at conventions where people are actually coming to your table to see you?
We haven't tabled since then, actually.
Okay.
Because
is it something that appeals to you, or is it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we're really looking forward to
seeing people in person.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to our table at Thought Bubble this year because it has been a while. It's just last year we didn't do it because
we didn't have any stock.
No, we didn't have any stock because
so we'd have just been sat there with a drawing pad saying, "Do you want us to draw something?"
I mean, ultimately, we also dropped out of Thought because we initially applied for a table at Thought Bubble last year, but dropped out on principle because it's a curated comics show. You have to be selling comics to be there. Like that's part of the principal thing. And while we had enough credentials to get into it, because all of our Marvel work was middle of runs, then there wasn't much point in selling anything there in that way. And Crowded had only just begun. So we just, in the end, what we felt was that we weren't living up to the principles of the con if we took the table, so dropped out.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, you say that you've been to Thought Bubble on a number of occasions, and you've seen, probably like myself, the show evolve and grow like a monster, which now takes over Leeds City Centre. I mean, what's been your take on Thought Bubble and also the kind of convention scene here in the UK in terms of that growth and the way that shows seem to be, and just the whole culture behind Comic-Con seems to have grown, and we kind of are taking on the US kind of model in that regard, in that we're growing these things into these monster events.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think the reason why we both like Thought Bubble is because it's a much more European affair than the American show. You know, it's much closer to a miniature Angoulême than it is a Wizard World or a Reed Pop event. It's because it's got that, integration into the town, tents sprawling through the town, use of walkways and all that. It feels like a much more organic affair than anything that I've ever been to in America, which is something I really like because I mean, it's strictly a personal preference, but for me, it feels more approachable and more open, and just not quite as crammed, I think, is a term I'd often use with American conventions.
I don't know. The Thought Bubble last year was a pretty packed affair. I seem to remember checking my walking stats once the weekend had done. I put my steps in on that particular weekend. It was a big enough show. Do you get the chance to check out any of the smaller ones? Maybe anything local to you? I mean, where are you guys based?
Just north of Bristol.
So are there any local shows that you get the chance to go and see, perhaps any? Because I feel that in the UK there's two different types of shows. There's pure comic conventions, and then, like you say, the MCM and the slightly busier pop culture show. Yeah. And that line, there's a definite gap between those two kind of shows. Although MCM, and this is where I'm going to be leading with the next question, MCM are definitely doing their best to evolve Comic Village. Full disclaimer, I'm their panel host guy for their comics for MCM from this year onward. And they are inviting some pretty big guests, including international guests. Do you think that will change the way that the pure comics conventions will behave in this country?
I hope not, because we haven't been to many of the smaller cons, but that's, it's one of those things where when Crowded is up to having a proper trade out, then there'll be much more point in us going on a tabling basis. And it's one of those things, if traveling to a lot of shows isn't really financially viable if we're not going to be making money at them. But I would hope that small shows stay, not small, but stay the way they are, because I think starting out with that whole deal of, focusing on comics is a better place to start. As much as if you're a smaller show, going the media route, especially early on, you're unlikely to have the juice to pull in anybody that would attract anyone outside of a very niche audience.
Okay. We are going to have a quick look down through a couple of the questions that are coming through, because we have got a couple of people, some fans of Crowded, who bought that on Wednesday. We've got Leanne, who's a fan. For people who don't know, and perhaps you want to try and kind of introduce the book to people, can you give us the elevator pitch for Crowded, please?
10 minutes into the future, everyone is working in a gig-based economy. One of these apps in the economy is called Reaper, which is a crowdfunding app for assassination. So if you find someone you don't like, you can start a Kickstarter to get them killed. And if someone else kicks in money, then you've got a campaign on.
And then so that gives you a 30-day window to raise as much money as you can. And anybody who kills within that 30-day window takes whatever pot has accumulated up to that point. So the story is all about
Charlie Ellison.
Yeah.
Just an ordinary girl who wakes up one morning to find that she has a $1.2 million bounty on her head.
Now, this is quite surprising because Charlie believes herself to be a nobody. She, works a dozen inconsequential app-based jobs, and that seems to be the end of it. But somehow she's got a record-breaking Reaper bounty on her head, and
out of desperation, she looks for a bodyguard on another app called Defend. And the only person who responds is the lowest rated bodyguard called Vita. And this is basically the story of them trying to outrun everybody during the 30-day campaign and figure out why exactly Charlie has such a high bounty on her head.
When Christopher kind of pitched the book to you, what was the first thing that you thought? What was the kind of first reaction when you got the story?
Like, oh, this could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Chris pitched us. He had 5 books that had in various stages of development when we talked to him. So we heard about Cold War, and
Crowded.
We didn't think we could do Cold War justice because it didn't seem quite like we could fit them. But then the second book he told us about was Crowded, and we didn't even ask what the other 3 were.
It's like, no, we want that one, please.
You just went straight for Crowded. That's what we like to hear. Excellent stuff. So, like you say, it was the first issue was released this week. I mean, what kind of plans are already in place? You've been working on the book for a year. I mean, how far are you currently in sort of production of the book? I mean, how far down the line are you?
Not as far as we'd like. We're coming up on the end of the first arc, but you've seen the first issue. The learning curve on it is very steep, and the book itself is so dense that it's taken us quite a while to get up to speed on producing it, because it's. I mean, we did a panel count for issue 4, and
it has over 200 panels in it.
Which, when you think about it, like an average book is 20 pages with, say, 5 panels a page. That's 100 panels in an average issue.
So we've got 4 more pages
and twice the
as many
panels.
panels.
So it's
very full.
It's work intensive as a book. It's incredibly work intensive. So we're not as far ahead as we'd like, but we're doing okay by, because of the image system of have an arc with a 3-month gap to release the trade and then start the new arc. So yeah, we're on track for where we need to be, even if we're not quite where we'd like to be.
Fair enough. And to get back to the conversation of conventions then, and with tying it in with Crowded, I mean, are you getting any invites in terms of presenting Crowded to an audience in front of people?
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean,
Not yet.
If anybody, if anybody's interested, then all they have to do is ask.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So conventions are definitely something that you are wanting to do. Are you wanting to do more of them, or are you happy with the the number that you're doing at the moment?
We definitely like to do more. It's just not really had the opportunity to do any.
Exactly. Now that we've got a product we can sell there, so we won't be necessarily taking a financial loss on the weekend. Then suddenly that makes for a very different attitude to attending them. And we would be, definitely, we're starting to think much more about what we can do next year.
So is it just the UK shows that I'm trying to work out how far that you'd actually like to travel?
Oh, I mean,
I'm just trying to work out if you're kind of very happy, so like working almost on a virtual level, kind of just through social media, or do you like getting out there to the wider world?
If someone else is going to pay for us to go, we'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like about the way that, as long as there's a hotel, a train, or a plane, and a half decent green room with some some goodies. Excellent stuff. So you say you're doing Thought Bubble. Is there any other conventions that you've got lined up for 2018, or is that pretty much it at the moment?
That's pretty much it right now.
That's it at the moment. Like I said, we're hoping to make 2019 a bit more busy because in March we'll have the first Crowded trade, which becomes a much easier seller for shows because, of course, that you've got the whole first arc wrapped up in one package.
There's also the thing that you're more happy to have that in stock, so you don't end up with a whole load of single issues under your bed that you can't sell.
Yeah, the single issues are a tricky beast. So, Thought Bubble will be good because we'll only have the first 2 issues. It's not too difficult to sell those if we need to. But once we're into getting trades, then suddenly that makes tabling at conventions much easier because it's just one streamlined product that we can sell that becomes it's a very different experience.
Fair enough.
So no thoughts of going back to New York Comic Con this year?
No, until we can afford planes.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. If they were willing to invite us out, then we'd be there in a heartbeat.
I understand. Having been to New York Comic Con and their Artist Alley, it's quite intense. I have been there, so I understand what you're up against with regards to that. Are you the other? There are a lot of other smaller cons, and I just kind of want to disabuse people of the idea that all of the American conventions are large and big and overdone. There are a lot of smaller conventions out there in the scope of Thought Bubble and so forth.
Oh, yeah. Just in New York this weekend, there's Flame Con, isn't there? So much more of a there's much more of a kind of smaller scale, more manageable experience.
More manageable.
I'm trying to pull up the details because, another way that obviously artists and creatives can interact with their fans is through comic book shop tours. And I know that there's, I'm trying to remember his name, trying to remember who's doing it. There's a guy that's flying over who's an Irish-based artist who's actually...
Elvie.
Sorry?
Declan Shelvey.
That's the one. I don't know why on earth his name escapes me. It's Declan Shelvey, for Christ's sake. Yeah, he's doing his US comic book shops tour. Is that something that possibly appeals? Maybe even here in the UK, doing sort of like face-to-face meetings with fans.
We'd definitely be up for that. We just don't know if anyone wants us there.
Yeah, I mean, again, like that's something that will come in when Crowded's got a trade. That'll be much easier to get because by then there'll be hopefully more of a built-in audience, which would. So then, if shops know that people would be interested in having us, then they'll be much more likely to be amenable to it. Because of course, a signing is a risk for a shop because they've got to buy in extra stock. They've got to make provisions for the creators to be there. It's a lot of work, a lot of additional work for a shop. So they need to be, understandably, fairly certain that it's not going to hurt their bottom line and leave them with a load of unsold material at the end. So hopefully Crowded should end up pulling in enough of an audience that something like that will be possible when the trade's out.
I'm very curious also as to what the model is with, say, Image, because obviously when you have other publishers that have it's more of an invested thing for them for the book to succeed, and that they would then call on the artists and creatives to go out and sell the book on a face-to-face basis. Because Image, at the end of the day, it's creator owned, so you kind of have to, the onus is on you to kind of promote yourself. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, Image do have a staff, and they so that they do have PR staff who are doing some stuff, but obviously they're not going to be providing the full experience in the way that, say, Marvel's in-house PR team are, because it's a very different operation.
They did have someone there who mocked up some really nice photo-based ads for us. I can't remember the name of who that was.
No, not off the top of my head.
It was a while ago now.
But yeah, like they did make, the Image PR team did make in-house ads that then they sent out to comic stores who ordered Image books to just to try and raise awareness and things like that. So it's certainly not that they're doing nothing, but yeah, I mean, I think with no matter who you're working for or with in comics, then if you're not heavily self-promoting, you're always going to be missing a trick somewhere.
Fair enough. And I suppose the other thing I wanted to ask is just how busy you're looking in terms of not just Crowded, but other projects as well. I mean, is Crowded kind of taking up your time at the moment in terms of full on getting that book done, or is there? Are you a team that also kind of balances and spins a whole bunch of plates at once?
No, I mean, if
this is a very full time-consuming book.
Yeah, like we said, Crowded is seriously intense to make, and maybe it'll get to a point where it isn't, but I don't think so, because part of the reason why we're proud of this book is because we're pushing ourselves so damn hard to outdo each issue, and so it means that every issue we're trying to do something new, something different, push harder, and so I'm not anticipating the workload falling anytime soon, because the better we get, the better we're going to make it.
Excellent.
I don't want anyone to ever read an issue of Crowded and think that's not better than last month's, is the thing.
We've been shortchanged here. I don't think so.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to avoid, to make sure that every month someone can come and read it and go, wow, that was even better than last time. Excellent.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing where Crowded goes, because I loved issue 1. I really am. I'm on board. There's a bunch of books that were launched by Image this week, a couple of first issues. I'd say all of them were pretty much top notch, but Crowded definitely is on the top of that particular pile. I'm a big fan. So looking forward to see where it goes from here. So looking forward to seeing you at Thought Bubble and also other conventions down the road as well. Is there anything else that you want to promote? Where can people find you online and follow the story of Crowded online?
Well, we're mostly just on Twitter, because We have Tumblrs, but we don't really use them anymore.
No, I mean, it's just that thing of too much of a time suck.
Well, it's not just that. It's like, by the time you're allowed to post things up, it's like, oh, I don't want to post that anymore. I'm better now.
Yeah. So yeah, the best place to find the pair of us online is definitely Twitter. So I'm at 10_bandits. 10 is the word rather than the number.
And I am at Rosy Tinted Specs, and that Rosy is spelled ROSY, like, you know, rosy apples and stuff. So
yeah, that's the best place to find us. Then if you do, come and say hello, and we'll almost certainly say hello back.
Well, I'm going to be doing my damnedest to kind of put your names forward for every convention that I can put you in front of.
Please do.
So any way I can completely delay the end of Crowded. Yes, just completely mess up with your time schedule completely. That's what I'm going to try and do. Listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for coming on our first episode back. It's a pleasure to have been speaking to you. And best of luck with Crowded. Everyone go out and check it out. Like I say, issue 1 came out this week. It's on Image Comics. You'll find it in all your local comic book shops. I really would recommend it. It's a great book.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed. Right, so there you go. That's Ted and Ro. Do check out the book. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I found it interesting talking to them about their evolution as artists. The fact that they launched straight into titles and straight into published big. I mean, I'd say pretty big published works, which I thought was quite impressive.
Absolutely. It's also interesting to me that they have gotten occasional work through different authors through Marvel. And so they're starting to get their name out. And it really is a study in how to start your career. You reach out, you say, hey, you have a connection like he had with Kieran and with just bantering, and you say, hey, I'm available and I can work on a schedule. I mean, how many times have we heard from creatives on our show, I was able to keep to the schedule and that's why I'm hired.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember that I did an interview with Dave Gibbons, and I basically said, so what is the appeal of someone hiring someone? He said, getting the work done.
Yep.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Able to keep onto a schedule.
That's, well, yes. As someone who fails on that on a regular basis, I totally appreciate that.
No comment. Yeah. I'm not saying a word.
No.
I don't have a script, so I have no idea where we're going.
Well, to be honest, it's going to be a pretty wrap-up show at this point. We are going to make it a short one because if you've joined us a little bit late and you were expecting us to be speaking to Kaz Anvar from The Expanse, trust me, we were looking forward to it as well. We were contacted by his PA and his PR department. Because they are gearing themselves up for appearing at Dragon Con at the end of the month. I'm just about to pull up the information about that because I think it's the first time that a large number of the cast will be appearing at a convention in 2018. This is Kaz Anvar. This is Shure Agalashu. I can always trip up on her surname. Agdalashu. I should have got that wrong. Yeah, Dominique Tipper and Frankie Adams. It's the first time that the cast have all come together to appear at a convention. And like I say, they're appearing at Dragon Con. I wanted to talk to Kaz about the relationship between the fans going to conventions, building a community up that allows them to generate the heat behind a show being resurrected on Amazon Prime. So that's where I wanted to go with that. So it's a shame that we weren't able to bring Kaz on today's show. We may be able to arrange it further down the line, fingers crossed. But I was told by everyone involved in the organization that he was up for it and he was committed. The word was committed. I don't know if that actually meant he had been committed and that's why he's unavailable. But who knows? But fingers crossed we'll be able to get Kaz on a future show prior to him appearing at Dragon Con. So maybe in the next couple of weeks. Speaking of future guests, we do have a number of people that are lined up and those going to be speaking to us. We'll be announcing those in the next couple of days. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what we do with this season because we've got some big names. I think the great thing about going to San Diego Comic-Con this year was I was going up to artists and creatives and people at stands and various celebrities and industry types, and they kind of knew who we were. And they said, yeah, we'd be up for coming on the show. Now it's just a case of connecting the dots and getting them on and working out a schedule for that. So watch this space. We will make that happen. But what's been happening with you, Alyssa, over the last couple of weeks? I mean, I know that you've been catching up post San Diego Comic-Con on films and television. I know that leading up to Comic-Con, your DVR was getting particularly full. Have you been able to chip away at that at all?
No, actually, I haven't. What's been interesting to me, I've been really following the whole Movie Pass situation here in the States. Movie Pass, for those that don't know or in the UK, is a program where you pay $10 a month and got to see unlimited amount of movies. That was in existence for a couple of years, a few years, and seems like it's now defunct. But a few other places have opened up other programs. AMC, for example, which is the program that I joined, was $20 a month, and you get to see as many 3 movies a week. So I was able to see Chomp, the Meg.
Is that what we're calling it? I quite like that title, actually.
Yeah, Chomp. Yes, absolutely. Why not? The Meg, which was absolutely very, very, I don't know if anybody else has seen it. I suspect others have, but very predictable in terms of its casting. However, the special effects and the creature was amazing, and the video was absolutely fun. I know Mark Serby liked it, a long time guest of the Hangout. Also was able to see, I seem to be going under a couple of confusions. So I went and saw Black KKK Klansman, and unbeknownst to me, it was done by Spike Lee. So I was kind of like going, this is a little preachy. And then I'm like, oh yeah, Spike Lee. Right. Boom.
Makes a little bit more sense when you go in with that information, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Very much like super rich Asian Crazy Rich Asian movie. I didn't know it was a rom-com, but it's a type of movie that I would like. So, and it was actually really, really fun, even though I dislike rom-coms. So, those 3 movies are absolutely on my list of, and I'm looking of list of movies to go see. And I'm also looking forward to hearing what Mark Serby has to say about them eventually. And also that's kind of where I've been. Speaking of sharks, we do have the last Sharknado is airing on the television this week. So that's just kind of a by the by. And that's kind of what I've been up to. I mean, you see my new digs here. And so this is where I'll be broadcasting from most of the time. So okay. Sunny San Diego.
Well, yes, indeed. Not so sunny UK here. The sun is about to set on me, so I am going to say that we're going to wrap things up. For the future, we are going to be doing the shows. They are not going to go any longer than an hour. Like I say, the main reason for that is because we're also going to be uploading the show to Instagram TV. So that is as long as you can get. You can only do an hour show and hour uploads on Instagram. So that's part of the reason why we're kind of condensing things down. And also the shows that we have done in the past really have been talk until we drop. And I think that's there's only so many marathons that us con attendees can go to. I think there's only so many events where they just keep going on and on and on. So we are going to keep things to a nice tight schedule going forward. So like you say, thank you very much indeed to Ro and to Ted for joining us. Apologies for everyone who joined us expecting to see Kaz. like I say, you're as disappointed as I am, because we really would have loved to have had him on. Alyssa, where are you going? What's your con lineup from here on in? Have you got anything kind of on the schedule?
I'm tentatively looking at a Designer Con and Long Beach Comic Con. I'm trying to figure out ways of financing my hotel rooms, I think, is the best way of saying that. So that's, those are the two on my schedule. I do want to make a quick shout out for anybody that is in San Diego this afternoon. Matt Dumford is hosting a San Diego Comic Fest volunteer meeting. And that is, I think, at one of the public libraries. Get with me, and I will pass that information along to you. It's at 1 o'clock this afternoon if you're interested in volunteering and getting behind the scenes look at what happens at the year-long preparation to what happens at a comic convention. That's all. I also wanted to mention that Karen Sessions posted that the Sci-Fi Channel is currently doing a Sharknado marathon. So, do Sharknado, go see the Meg. you have to see it. It really is quite fun.
Cool. As for myself, I just want to say thank you everyone who showed up at Meanwhile Comic-Con in Worthing a couple of weekends ago, or was it last weekend? It was a great show. As the second one that has been produced by Simon Burks from Blue Fox Comics. It was the first time that he'd done a show at Worthing. It was a sequel to the show that he did at Chichester, which the second year of that is going to be coming up very shortly indeed. My convention calendar is going to start getting full at the middle of next month, and hopefully one or two people you can come and join us, because I'm going to be panel hosting at these shows. So looking forward to attending the ICE International Comics Expo on the 15th of September. That's on the Saturday. No idea yet who I'm going to be speaking to, but considering that they have a number of the 2000 AD creatives, Alessandro Vitti is going to be there. Some great guests. Do check out the ICE Comic-Con website and Twitter for more information about that. That's on the 15th. The week after that is Thought Bubble. I will not be attending this year, and it's killing me. It's something that I would love to go to, as it is my local con. It would take me 15 minutes to get there. However, I'm going to be taking a train up to Scotland because I am going to be panel hosting for MCM up in Glasgow on the, let me just get those correct dates. That's the 23rd and the 22nd and 23rd of September. Looking forward to speaking to the two guests that are lined up for that, which is David Azzarello and also Donny Cates as well, two great international talents, including all the rest of the comic talents, of which we'll be putting on panels throughout the course of the weekend. So hopefully you can join us for MCM Scotland that weekend. Then after that, it's going to be the 29th and 29th and 30th, which is the last weekend in September. That's down at Meanwhile Chichester. Again, Simon pulls some great local talent from the South Coast to this great con, which is just so full of positivity. Everyone gets the chance to kind of network and meet with everyone, and it really is just a fun show to attend. So looking forward to attending that. In October, we have the Lakes International Comics Arts Festival. We usually try and get to go along. I'm hoping that I'll be able to make it certainly on the Saturday and Sunday, but I'll keep you up to date with whether that's going to be the case. But the big show for me is in October, from the 26th to the 28th of October. It is MCM London Comic Con, where I have been told that I will be interviewing Frank Miller, Brian Azzarello, Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Connor, and a number of others which have yet to be announced. It's going to be a fun weekend, so looking forward to speaking to Frank Miller and to find out just how bonkers he is in real life, considering everyone else tells me he's bat nuts crazy. I would like to find out for myself. So I'm going to get the chance to speak to Frank Miller. And then the last one that's kind of confirmed for me in the year is in November, which is the first weekend in November, which is Saturday, which is ICE, the International Comics Expo, their Brighton show. So I've been invited down to there to attend and panel host for that. But other than that, it's also going to be making sure that we are on air for Talkin Con each and every week.
Andrew English is asking if you're going to be at MCM Birmingham.
I haven't been invited yet. Although it's entirely down to their Comics Village talent and whether they're actually putting panels on for that talent. As far as I'm aware, I'll be having that conversation when I meet up with the guys in Scotland next month. So as soon as I get any details, I will let you know. So there we go. Right. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. We are going to be scheduling some shows very soon about New York Comic Con as we get built up for that. Are you going to be able to attend that this year, Alyssa? Now that you're on entirely the opposite coast.
Right. I will not. Just this year is too much. I already have scheduled a trip back to my for Christmas, for the holidays. So that's taking precedence, honestly.
You do right. You do right. Excellent stuff. So thank you very much indeed for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Like I say, it's our first one back. We are going to stumble back into it, and like I say, we're going to be filling up all the guest slots for the forthcoming weeks. So do pay attention to our social media, and we'll do what we can to get you some pretty good special guests for this season. Alyssa, where can people find you online?
People can always find me at Friends of CCI for my Twitter handle, and they can always find me on the forum and the blog at friendsofcc.com.
Excellent. For myself, you can find me on Englishman SDCC. That account will be up and running and will remain up and running, even though by the end of September, there will be another account slightly livelier, which I'm going to be running, which is the Convention Collective. All the URLs are set up, all the social medias are set up. Basically, an Englishman in San Diego is getting pared down. I'm reclaiming it, basically, whereas before the site kind of has ballooned into something which covers comic conventions and all the pop culture stuff that surrounds it. Now it's a case of the Convention Collective is going to be a site which is going to be a resource for comic conventions, not just San Diego Comic-Con, and not only conventions in the US, but UK as well. I'm going to try and fill it with as much information as I possibly can. The actual official title of it, it's the Convention Collective featuring an Englishman in San Diego. I'm going to have my little corner of the site down in the corner. I'm reclaiming myself, as it were. So do join us for that particular ride. The website does go dark in just under 2 weeks' time, which means I'm rebuilding effectively everything from scratch. 1st of October is when the conventioncollective.com goes live. But other than that, do follow Englishman SDCC for all the updates, especially when it comes to Talkin Con and future episodes coming up. Once again, you'll be able to see this episode on Instagram TV as of Wednesday morning, along with the audio version going live on iTunes podcasts and SoundCloud. We're hoping that we'll be able to get the podcast on Spotify shortly. We'll keep you up to date with any updates if that happens. Thank you very much indeed for watching. If you'd like to support the show, please head to patreon.com/EnglishmanSDCC and donate what you can. It allows us to keep the lights on, allows us to do what we can, and convince some guests to come on the show if financially motivated. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Do take care, and hopefully we'll see you next Sunday. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.